Howdy, and welcome to episode 29 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. I'm Josh Reisick here with Brian Koleski. We're pumped to get into this episode. I mean, literally, we're almost at episode 30. What's even more exciting about this episode is if you look closely at Brian, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that Brian is wearing an Ohio State hat. And I'm so happy about that. I'm also wearing an Ohio State hat.
I'm sorry I'm wearing this garbage on my head. I lost a bet.
Yeah, he lost last week. We didn't have a guest picker, and Brian got less picks. I got more picks right than Brian did.
Just one more pick. If Auburn hadn't let me down, screw you, Auburn. Screw you. I picked y'all to win, and y'all freaking shit the bed, man. Come on.
Well, it's a great day because Brian's wearing an Ohio State hat, so I'm happy about that. Brian's not too happy about it, obviously. But before we get right into this episode, we just kind of want to give a little preview of what we're going to talk about. We also have a special guest picker today, unlike last week. But
we've had his brother on, Jake Crain. We've had his other co-host on, David Cohn. Time to finally have the third guy on, Blain Crain from Crain and Company, a.k.a. Flaming Dragon. If you watch their show, then you know why they call him the Flaming Dragon. He's awesome. He's actually played football here at Spanish Fort. He knows the Mobile area pretty well. Him and his brother both do. Their dad coached here at South. They've been grad assistants here at South, so it'll be awesome to have him on. We've been fortunate enough to have all three of those guys on, and hopefully, maybe when the Senior Bowl comes, maybe we can do a collab with them.
In person, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. But I mean, yeah, I'm super excited to have him on, see what his picks are. There's some really big games this week too. I mean, every week there are.
But this week there's a lot of things at stake.
Yeah, lots of things at stake. And I mean, and then we're going to talk about too the things that were at stake this past week, some big winners, and then also a couple things. I kind of want to touch base on Colorado because they have an iffy rest of their season. The rest of this Colorado season looks tough.
Their schedule is
it's very tough. And obviously they have 4 wins right now. Will they get another win is kind of what I'm aiming at. I think that, I don't want to get too much into that, but also I want to touch base on James Franklin because James Franklin is going into a big week this week, and some certain things always tend to happen with James Franklin going into big weeks. And
then we'll preview some matchups. We got Tennessee and Bama. Bama's got a nasty taste in their mouth from last year, losing by 3 at Neyland Stadium. We got Penn State, Ohio State, Duke at Florida State, Utah-USC. Some big time matchups this weekend. So
yeah, heck yeah. But let's get right into it. All right, before we dive into segment 1, we would like to thank our sponsor for segment 1, which is 251 Pool Works. Family owned and operated, 251 Pool Works offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair. They serve the greater Mobile, Baldwin County, and Pensacola areas. And if you're needing any monthly pool cleaning service and or repair, give them a call at 251-978-7736 for the Pool Works.
If your pool looks anything like this garbage on my head, get it clean.
All right. You got to stop with that. But speaking of garbage, I want to get in naked to 251 Pool Works. But speaking of garbage, man, I don't want to say Colorado is garbage, but I think that anybody that watched that game for Colorado this past week, it was garbage. It's definitely not what they wanted to see. It was ugly. I mean, obviously you lose in triple overtime, whatever it was. You lose 46-43 after being up 29-0. Going into the half. And I don't know what happens as a football team to come back out and just be dormant until the fourth quarter and give one touchdown in the fourth quarter to tie it up and send it to OT. But the fact that they just let that happen to begin with, it's awful.
I remember going to bed. It was 29-0 Colorado, and then all of a sudden you wake up. I couldn't stay awake long enough to watch the rest of the game. But I wake up Saturday morning and I see that Stanford won. It was just, and I watched the highlights. It's kind of those moments where Colorado got ahead and then they let Stanford. They took their foot off the gas. They took their, they probably thought they had it in the bag. At halftime when it was up 29-0. But man, you just can't do this, especially when you do all the antics that they do, you know, flashing the watch and all this other stuff, I still think Colorado can have a successful season, but man, they got to get some depth, man. They got to get some depth up front on both sides of the ball. They have some good players on both sides of the ball up front, but they don't have the depth to sub in, you know, and keep guys fresh like some of these other teams do, like a Oregon, like a Washington.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of these bigger teams in the Pac-12. But I feel for Colorado fans. I mean, this is not their fault, but still,
it sucks to see something like that happen. And I mean, the thing too, for me as of right now, is the fact that Colorado might not win another football game the rest of the season.
Their schedule does not get any easier.
I know that Brandon McCartney is going to hate me for saying that, but I mean, obviously, Colorado's 4-3 now. They started off the year really hot, but you look at the rest of their remaining schedule. Their last 5 games, they had 2 number 25 UCLA. They host number 12 Oregon State. Then they play at home against Arizona, and then they travel to Washington State, and then go to Utah, the final game of the season. Out of those 5 games, I think the only game that I could for sure say they will win is possibly Arizona. But Arizona could also win that game
Arizona's
too.
been playing pretty well too.
That's what I'm saying. So
of late.
We're in a predicament where everyone, literally, if you would have told me 2 weeks ago, is Colorado going to be bowl eligible? I would have been like, oh yeah, they'll definitely be bowl eligible. But right now, after that loss to Stanford and barely squeaking by Arizona State, I don't know if they will be bowl eligible come the end of the season. I don't know if they'll get that. I think that they can beat Arizona.
Even with the win to Arizona, that puts it at 5 wins, and that's not bowl eligible. It's 6. So you're gonna have to knock off one of these teams, and the only one I can see that you could potentially knock off is either UCLA or Washington State. But those teams are tough as well, and Arizona State's on a roll. Utah's on a roll. You had your chance to beat USC, you didn't. You got blown out by Oregon. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. I don't see another win here.
Yeah, I don't know if I see another one either, which I hate to say it for Brandon McCartney's sake, but seriously, I really don't know if Prime can just make this team win another game. And I saw something on Instagram talking about...
this season has already been a success for Colorado.
Oh, easily.
And Deion's first year, it's already been a success. You tripled your win total from last year. You know, you only won 1 game last year. Now you've won 4 so far. Could win 5 or 6. 5 or 6. And maybe potentially be bowl eligible. But everybody who watches college football and knows college football knew that this is going to be a tough season tough first year for Colorado. Everybody knew it.
And the way that they started off, I don't think anyone expected to see Colorado start off in the way that they did. Yeah. And the thing is now, though, they're in a position where they probably won't be bowl eligible. But either way, it's an accomplishing season.
I think a lot of the disappointment, and it's not really Colorado's fault. I don't think it's Deion's fault. I don't think it's any of the players' fault. I think it comes from the media, where after they won those first 3 games,
they did get hyped up.
There was a lot of hype, a lot of I don't want to say undeserved hype, but it was a lot of overhyping because in these games you kind of overlooked some of the glaring issues that Colorado had even while winning these games. Like against TCU, their defense still gave up 42 points. Against Colorado State, their defense still gave up 35 points, and their offense still struggled to start off with. And so you bought into the hype, and you forget all the glaring issues that were about to show up in conference play. And now that you have a sample size of, now you've seen them play Oregon, now you've seen them play USC. They had a close win against Arizona State. They blew it against Stanford. Now you kind of see this hill that Deion has to climb.
Yeah, seriously.
Which he absolutely can do. He can recruit. I think he's a great coach. Yeah, I think he's going to get Shedeur back for another year.
Oh, easily.
And he's going to have Travis Hunter back for another year. He's definitely building, and they will definitely be better next year.
Oh, easily. And speaking of a team that's been insanely good this year, also in the Pac-12, Washington, man. Washington and Oregon this week, that was a shootout. And I was happy to be able to watch that. I mean, obviously, that was like the game of the week.
Yeah.
Washington versus Oregon. And I mean, man, like.
What a game.
Yeah, Michael Penix went out. I think Michael Penix, all year I've been talking about Michael Penix too, and like, everyone knew he was going to be good. I think right now he's the clear-cut Heisman.
Especially after Caleb Williams' poor performance against Notre Dame, and we'll get into that one later as well. But, man, this was just an electric atmosphere. How long has it been since you've seen this much of an electric atmosphere in the West in college football?
Oh, yeah, seriously. And it doesn't happen that often. And I mean, like, man, you live for Washington to be back to these types of days where they have a team that is this good. I mean, when was the last time they had a team this good? When they were in the playoff and played Bama back in, like, I don't know, was that like
2016, something
exactly.
like that.
And it's like, I guarantee, obviously Washington fans are excited, but I mean, Michael Penix, man, he is a generational talent. And I mean, dude's passing for over 2,300 yards already, 20 touchdowns, and just 3 picks. He has the second best QB rating in all college football. And dude is just straight up balling. But I mean, got to give credit to Bo Nix too, because Bo Nix still had a great game.
337 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 10 incompletions. He had a heck of a day too. They had both of these teams had a lot of success. Defense was not really present in this game, but that's just a nod to both of these offenses. What the game came down to was decision making. I think it was at the first half. Ending of the first half, they instead of going for a field goal, they went for it and didn't get it. Then there were some mishaps at the end of the second half that caused Washington to have the game-winning drive, and then for Oregon to miss that field goal at the end.
Yeah, seriously. And I mean, you hate to see that happen, because I wanted to see that game go into overtime so bad. Yeah. I was like, oh, like just tensing up thinking about it. But I mean, obviously, like Washington still came out on top with the dub. And man, this Washington team though, they are good. Yeah. They are really good. And the crazy thing is that matchup from this weekend more than likely will be the Pac-12 championship game.
We could definitely see it again. I'm still holding out hope for Utah, but man, with these two teams, I think it's going to be.
Yeah, more than likely.
And both of these teams, like, I don't want to say we can get 2 Pac-12 teams in the playoff, because probably not. I think whoever wins the Pac-12 championship out of these two, which is probably going to be the championship, probably make it. But like both of these, Oregon still controls their own destiny. If they win out, I mean, they have, Oregon, of course, it doesn't get any easier. They have I have their schedule put up. They have Washington State this week at home. And they go on the road to Utah. That'll be a hard one because Utah's had their number the last couple of years. They get an easy one against Cal. Then they host USC. That'll be a good one. I think Oregon will win that game decisively. So, and then they got the Civil War at home, Oregon State, and Oregon State's been on a roll too. So
yeah, but so my only concern with this situation is, say Oregon gets one more loss in the rest of their season. They go into the Pac-12 championship and beat Washington by 3. Does Oregon still get into the playoff? That's the thing. So. Exactly, and that's what I don't think either. And that's where it's so tough.
That's where the problem lies with the Pac-12 the last several years is
they kill each other.
They kill each other and they cannibalize themselves. And even like I don't know. I don't think Washington would get in with one loss over a one-loss Bama or a one-loss
Ohio State
or even like a 2-loss LSU SEC champion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, and I know that's kind of biased to say, but it's really not, because
that's how it is. The college football playoff favors the SEC over anything, and they
and the
Big Ten. Exactly. Like last year, you saw Michigan and Ohio State both get in, even after Ohio State lost to Michigan. And in years prior, we've seen multiple SEC teams get in, like Bama, Georgia, and just stuff like that. So I mean, I think it's very unlikely
either of these teams have to win out.
Exactly.
Oregon has to win out and beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game if they want to get in. Or Washington has to win out. Now Washington can still probably has the best chance out of any team that is undefeated right now to lose their conference championship. Say you do get a 2-loss Oregon that beats Washington. It's the same situation last year with TCU where they lost the Big 12 championship to Kansas State and they still got it.
Yep. And
so there is that possibility, and Washington has played good enough to where their schedule is very favorable to where they have multiple top 15 matchups coming up. They got to go to USC. They got to host Utah, and they go to Oregon State. So if they went out and they still lose and they lose the Pac-12 championship game by 3 points or by a touchdown,
and that's
they could still get in.
And like you said, the TCU Kansas State game, that game came down to the wire last year too.
Yeah,
like literally.
TCU still got in over what should have been a 2-loss Bama, but I'm saving that one for later.
Whatever you say. But
I'm joking.
On the other hand, though, man, I want to talk about James Franklin a little bit because this weekend, obviously, Penn State and Ohio State play. And this is a crucial game. Obviously, every year, Penn State, Ohio State's a huge game. Penn State, Michigan's a huge game. And Penn State's really the only other competitor in the Big Ten besides Michigan and Ohio State. And the thing is, the fact of the matter that
Don't rule out Iowa, man.
Okay, shut up. You can't have the right to say that. But the thing that I want to talk about with James Franklin is we talked about this earlier on in the year, over the summer, when we gave our Penn State preview, talking about Drew Aller, talking about James Franklin and what they're capable of doing. But right now, James Franklin's going to Columbus, Ohio, playing the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes. And I just want to read off this list that College Football Report posted on Twitter. James Franklin's 2-11 on the road versus top 25 teams. He's 0-9 on the road against top 10 teams, and he's 1-8 against Ohio State, and then 1-11 against top 5 teams.
It all changes this weekend, baby. No,
okay, I'm
not giving away my pick.
The thing is, every single year, Penn State has a chance. Every year, in last year, they had a huge chance too. Thank God for JT Tomenlaw coming in and having the defensive performance of a lifetime, just shutting down Penn State last year. But the thing is, Penn State always kill themselves too when it comes into these situations where they have a really great team, a really phenomenal team, but they're going to Columbus, Ohio. And I'm not going to give my pick either now.
I think this is probably his best team he's had at Penn State. Drew Aller's on a roll. He has not turned the football over. He does not have a pick. He has over 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. If I had to pick this game basically solely on quarterbacks, I'm sorry, I'd take Drew Aller over Tyler quarterback.
I would too. But the thing is, I don't know. I just don't know for sure. I think if Penn State was home, in all honesty, if Penn State was home for this game, I think Penn State would beat Ohio State. But the fact of the matter is, it's at Ohio State, and they don't have that home field advantage.
But if there's ever been a chance for James Franklin to get up over this hump and beat Ohio State or beat a Michigan or beat both of them in the same season, it's this year. I mean,
you can't be saying that with an Ohio State on right now. Ohio State hat on right now, Brian.
I'm not an Ohio State fan, trust me. I'm doing this because you make me. But no, if there's ever been a chance for him to do it, it's with this team. It's this year. If he doesn't do it this year, I don't see him being able to do it in the future.
Yeah, and my big concern is if he loses this Ohio State game, and then say he loses to Michigan.
Yeah.
Towards the end, a couple more weeks down the road, how does it look for James Franklin? Do you think that the seat gets any hotter for him if because he's a great coach? Don't get me wrong. He wins the games that he needs to win, but then when it comes to games like this, where it's these are games that he needs to win, but he wins the games that he should win, but he doesn't win the games that he needs to win. And
I don't think it puts him on the hot seat if he were to lose to Ohio State and Michigan, especially if they're close losses. I don't know. I mean,
it's just he's in a spot where, and he is a great coach, and I don't want to see him on the hot seat like that. But I mean, I love how Ohio State's beaten him 8 of the last 9 times.
I mean, Drew Aller is still in his first year. This team is young. I mean, I might be contradicting my last statement, but he'll be able to build. I think he'll be able to build.
And I mean, Penn State's been known. He always has a phenomenal defense. I'm pretty sure they have a top 3 defense in the country right now. I'm not sure exactly where they stand as of right now. I think they might even be number 1. And they always have a great defense. But it comes down to those little things, man, and where they shoot themselves in the foot. And we'll see if they can get it done this weekend. But
I mean, they went 12-2 last year, and their only losses were to Michigan and Ohio State. So it's really. And they had a much. I think they had probably a little bit of a lesser team last year than they did this year. I think this is the best team. This is his chance to get over that hump against both Michigan and Ohio State. And I mean, we'll see though. I mean, I like Penn State's chances this weekend.
Whatever you say. I mean, we'll get into that when we got the Flaming Dragon on in a little bit.
But I mean, next segment we're gonna do some previews and kind of get into some of the upcoming games this weekend. You got like I said, you got Bama and Tennessee, Penn State, Ohio State, which we probably kind of just do a little preview to that one. But I mean,
yeah, well, let's get right into it though.
all right, before we get into segment two is sponsored by Now Fitness. Now Fitness is a gym and fitness center based in Grove Hill, Alabama. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit, and other workouts. They also help their local athletes train and get in their best shape. Call 251-269-3065 for more, and go hit the gym, go hit some weights.
Hey, dude, Brian, your biceps are actually looking a little bigger today. Have you been going? Going to the gym?
Stop. No, I have not. I need to, but I know I'm the one to be talking about going to the gym. But anyway, we got some previews to get into before we get into our pick'em segment. We got some great games this weekend. We're going to start it off right here in the state. You got Tennessee heading to Alabama, to Tuscaloosa, in the third Saturday of October. This has always been a rivalry between these two teams. Last year, for the first time in 15 years, Tennessee got the win over Alabama, 52-49 in a crazy shootout. This year, I feel like it's a little bit different. Tennessee does not have the team that they had last year. They don't have Hendon Hooker. They don't have Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. They lost Brew McCoy to injury. And Joe Milton is kind of similar to Jalen Milroe, which you can't trust him with his arm. Okay, last week against A&M, Tennessee had 232 rushing yards, but they only had 13 offensive points. Their other touchdown came from a punt return. Now to have 200-something yards against that A&M defensive front, that is pretty impressive. And if they could do that against Alabama and put up more points than they did against A&M, they will definitely have some success.
But I was real quick, just because you brought up that point, I think that Alabama's defense is a lot stronger than A&M's defense is. That's debatable too.
That's because Bama's better in the back end. They're better in the secondary and in the linebacker core than A&M is. A&M secondary is just awful.
But the thing is, I know Tennessee has a very high-powered offense. I mean, obviously, they averaged close to 450 yards a game, and Bama's nowhere near that, by the way. But the difference is you guys have not that Tennessee doesn't have a defense, but compared to Bama's, I think the Alabama Crimson Tide defense is way more. They just have a much better chance at stopping this Tennessee offense.
And one factor for me in this game is revenge. Alabama's always been great at getting revenge in games that they've lost a year prior. This is at home in Tuscaloosa. The atmosphere is going to be electric. I mean, it's going to be a great game. I'm excited for this one. To me, it all comes down to which Bama team shows up. Is it the Bama team we saw against A&M and Ole Miss, or is it the Bama team we saw in the second half against Arkansas and we saw against USF and Texas? Which Bama team shows up? Because they almost pissed the game away against Arkansas. And I don't know how they let Arkansas get back in that game after going up 24-6. It was very frustrating to watch, but the defense came through when they needed to. And the key for Tennessee to me is, can Joe Milton make enough plays through the air? Which quarterback out of Joe Milton and Jalen Milroe can make the most plays through the air is what it comes down to me. And I think Bama's been better at that. And
I think they have been better at that, but this is also a Bama team, like I was having these high praises for their defense, their last two games have been one-score games.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I think that's the scary thing. And yes, you guys are home, but last week, like you said, at home, you let Arkansas inch back in at the end. And that's just what kind of worries me for this game again. But I think Bama does have the upper hand. I think that you guys are the more polished team. I don't think Tennessee is anywhere near the team that they were last year. Obviously, no. I mean, they don't have Hendon Hooker. They don't have Jalen Hyatt. They don't have a lot of their defense, too. And I think Bama, I mean, I don't want to get into my pick'em segment, but I mean, obviously, I think Bama's going to win this game. And
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough, and Tennessee's gonna be ready to roll. I mean, they still control their own destiny. They're sitting at 5-1, 2-1 in conference. They win this game, who knows what happens? They got Georgia at home. Talking about Georgia, without Brock Bowers for a few weeks, maybe even longer. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah. The time is now for that game.
But really, I'm not gonna give away my pick just yet because reverse psychology, it's worked so far. But
you just gave away your pick.
But Bama is a 9.5-point favorite. I think that's a little bit too much right now. But like I said, it's at home in Bryant-Denny. It's in Tuscaloosa. 2:30 game. That place is gonna be rocking. Bama's got the advantage. It's just a matter of if they take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. But another game I kind of want to preview a little bit, just because of the current circumstances and situations, are two one-loss Pac-12 teams. Both one coming off a loss last week, but we got Utah headed to USC, and obviously USC 6-1, coming off the loss at Notre Dame, where Caleb Williams threw 3 picks, which not a lot of people were expecting. A lot of people are questioning now if this is going to hurt his draft stock and stuff like that. But there's also another situation that Bryant and I were talking about before the episode started with the Utah Utes. Because right now they're in a situation where they're going into week 7 or week 8, but their 7th game.
There's been no Cam Rising.
Absolutely no Cam Rising. And there was talks that Cam Rising was going to be back week 3 when they were home against UCLA. So that's the just odd situation right now, because Cam Rising even suited up for the UCLA game, was ready to play, and didn't. It's been all Nate Johnson and all of his 499 yards on the year. But that's just, to me, it doesn't make much sense because according to an article that Bryant and I were looking at before the episode started, said that Kyle Whittingham was planning on using some sort of loophole to get Cam Rising a medical red shirt so that he could come back for a 7th year next year. And I don't really know.
Crazy.
I don't really know how that's possible. I get why he would want to do that, because at this point you're going into your week 8, your 7th game, and Cam Rising still hasn't played.
And taking a snap.
Exactly. So it's like at that point you might as well just push it out, because you're already having a somewhat successful year. But it's just it's interesting to see where they're at right now, because it's like they already lost to Oregon State, and to win the Pac-12 at this point, they're going to have to win out.
Yeah.
And going into this game against USC, the only way I think they're going to win this game is if Cam Rising's playing. And defense, but I think Cam Rising needs to play for Utah to win this game.
Well, I think USC is playing a better defense than they did last week against Notre Dame. USC, it really wasn't about what USC did on the offensive side. I mean, defensive side of the ball last week. When Notre Dame had traditional drives and it wasn't a turnover, the USC was actually able to kind of stop UCLA. It was when USC turned the ball over on offense, and Caleb Williams has struggled against that Notre Dame defense. He struggled, and I think they're playing a much better defense this week. They only give up about 150 yards passing a game. They only give up about 170 yards rushing a game.
I mean,
they hold opponents to pretty good margins, and that's what's kept them in games, and why they're still sitting at 5-1 and 2-1 in conference play, and they still control their own destiny.
Oh, yeah, easily. And, I mean, you look at it, Notre Dame has the 14th best total defense in college football, and Utah has the 9th best. Utah is 5 spots ahead of where Notre Dame was at. And, I mean, the fact that Utah is much better at defense than Notre Dame is, it does make it scary to just see how Caleb Williams is going to play, to see how this USC offense is going to be ran. And, I mean, the other thing, though, too, with this game is the fact that Utah's offense hasn't really been doing much. So that's the other thing where you look at it, and it's like their starting quarterback hasn't even hit the 500-yard mark yet on the year, which is just – and I know they've been swapping out between Nate Johnson and another quarterback, too, but still, it's just like, it's not looking the best offensively for them. But kudos to Utah. USC doesn't have a defense, so – that's where it's going to be iffy, and I mean, we'll get into that in our Pick'em segment.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. This is a tough game. I mean, this was really a toss-up for me because Utah beat USC twice last year. But I don't know if this is the same Utah team without Cam Rising. The fact that they're 5-1 without Cam Rising is very impressive to me. They had their best offensive game last week against Cal. So, I mean, Who knows? We'll see. I mean, this is a toss-up game for me.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And
But one more thing I want to talk about, and we didn't plan this, but Brock Bowers going down with injury last week against Vanderbilt with all times you wanted him to go down with injury, and Georgia didn't struggle in that game, but they didn't win the way they wanted to.
yeah,
And I'm gonna say it right now, Brock Bowers I think could be a major loss for Georgia.
oh yeah,
But I don't think he's out for the year like some might suggest. Now, if for some reason it might be better for him, especially with his draft stock, to sit out the rest of the season, I don't blame him, but I don't think he will because I think that's the kind of player he is. But he had this tightrope surgery on his ankle, and if you're a Bama fan, or even if you're not a Bama fan, if you remember Tua, he had this same type of procedure done twice. Once in 2018 before the playoff game against Oklahoma, and then once in 2019 before the game against LSU. He had this procedure done twice, and he was only out 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know if Brock Bowers' injury is as bad as people are making it out to be, but it is a major loss this point in the season.
yeah, no.
Because their schedule is about to pick up. Very tough. They play Florida next weekend, who Florida's been playing a lot better lately. They beat South Carolina. They go to Tennessee in a few weeks. I mean,
And another thing too is Brock Bowers has accounted for 25% of Carson Beck's passing yards. You look, Brock Bowers has received 567 yards this year, and Carson Beck's thrown for a little over 2,100. That basically equals out to Brock Bowers receiving 25% of that load. And then Brock Bowers also gets a third of Carson Beck's touchdown passes. So it's like it is a huge loss for Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Brock Bowers is a potential Heisman candidate too, like potential to get to New York at least. I don't think he would have won Heisman, but definitely had a chance at being a finalist. And now I think that I wouldn't say it's blown out of the water, but I mean Georgia, it's looking thin right now for them just because Brock Bowers really did carry the team. But we did see Ladd McConkey step up when Brock Bowers went down this past week, so that's another thing too.
My thing is what does Georgia's offense look like without Brock Bowers? What will happen? Will they kind of start having to spread the ball around more, and then maybe try to have to get more in the run game? Well, I mean that's just something huge. That's a huge development in college football, especially depending on how he recovers. I mean, we'll see. I mean, nobody really knows what the timetable for his return will be. I mean, there's been rumors that it's only 2 to 3 weeks. There's been rumors where it's 4 to 6. Then there's rumors that he's out for the year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, like you said, Georgia's in a good spot right now because they get the bye after having that injury.
Yeah.
And it gives them time to prepare for this Florida team. And we'll see how that all turns out. But
let's get into our pick'em segment, man. Oh man, we have to redo that.
Do you want me to just say it again right now?
Yeah.
All right, well now, aside from Georgia, let's get right into our Week 8 college football pick'em segment, and we'll
bring on Blain Crain and see what happens.
The Flaming Dragon.
That's right. All right, everybody, welcome to our Week 8 Pick'em segment featuring the Flaming Dragon, a.k.a. Blain Crain. We've had his brother on, Jake. We've had his other co-host on, David Cohn. We've also, what better time to have him on from Crain and Company, Blain Crain. Man, we're excited to have you on today, man.
I appreciate you having me on, fellas. Hey, look, you're saving the best for last, and trust.
That's right. That's right.
You go 8-0.
All right, well, we're going to start off this week. And Bryant said that Auburn was your favorite team. Obviously, number 13 Ole Miss headed to Jordan-Hare against Auburn. And obviously, Ole Miss is 5-1. Auburn's 3-3. 3 straight losses for Auburn, unfortunately. And Peyton Thorne is the leading passer and rusher, but I don't know if you necessarily want to say he's the leading passer because been spotty for sure. And then you got to look at Ole Miss. Obviously, Jackson Dart's lighting things up. They're number 11 in total offense. For this game, I have to pick kind of the obvious answer. I'm not picking the upset here. Although Brian always says some voodoo crap goes down in Auburn, but I'm going to pick Ole Miss to beat Auburn at Auburn.
Yeah, this game has trap game for Ole Miss written all over it. And I said this last week with LSU too, but since it's in Jordan-Hare, it's in Auburn, I feel like they're looking for a bounce back. Hugh Freeze is looking for his first conference win as an Auburn Tiger. I don't know. This has trap game for Ole Miss written all over it for me. If, like I said last week, if Auburn's defense can keep them in the game, and Ole Miss is not really good or not that good at defending the run, if they can get the run game going and get some quarterback runs going, then I'm gonna take Auburn all day. I like the Auburn for the upset here.
Oh God, bless your soul. I hope so. Look, I went hard for against LSU. It was one of my upsets of the week, and we saw how that game went. It's never a good situation where you get excited about if your quarterback goes over 100 yards in a game. I think you're going to see a lot of Robbie Ashford in this game, and to me, Robbie Ashford's a glorified receiver. But I guess he somewhat does give us the best chance, or Auburn's best chance to win the game. But I made it a mission to bet against Auburn for the rest of the year after I just picked them to beat LSU last year. Definitely going to go to Ole Miss in this game. I mean, Auburn's off. There's nothing to get excited about. I mean, obviously you miss on a quarterback. I mean, Jarquez Hunter has been so far, in my opinion. I mean, your receivers don't make the play need to get made in big moments, and you see that. And I don't think their defense is bad. I just think they're on the field most of the game, and you saw that against LSU. I mean, points at halftime against one of the worst defenses in the. I mean, it's inexcusable. I saw effort problems in the half of that game. So give me Ole Miss. Him to cover that 6.5 too. And look, Jordan-Hare's weird. The Bermuda Triangle. Sometimes I go in there and get something to see if it actually fall down. Under cap action, but I think Ole Miss is just a better football team.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, and I think we're both. I mean, I don't know, but
this game might be a little bit personal for Hugh Freeze too. This is against his former team, so maybe it means a little bit more to him, and maybe he gets the troops rallied. I mean, like I said, I mean, Ole Miss has been on a roll since losing to Bama. I mean, Lane Kiffin always seems to stumble in a game that he shouldn't. So who knows?
I mean, we'll see. But the next matchup, unfortunately,
right?
Oh, my bad. The next matchup, though, we got number 2 Michigan headed to Michigan State. Obviously, not a huge game. I mean, it's big for Michigan. I don't want to say this is one of the bigger opponents that they've played, but I mean, it's another Big Ten opponent. Obviously, 7-0. They do have the number 2 defense in the entire country. And I think right now, headed into Big Ten play, they're not going to struggle at all until they play Penn State and Ohio State. And I don't even know if they're going to struggle in those 2 games.
Yeah.
But obviously, J.J. McCarthy's been lighting it up too. Same with Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. There's everyone on their offense and along with their defense. And if Michigan State's 2-4 with 4 straight losses, haven't done anything after the first 2 games. They also lost Mel Tucker, had all that drama going around with harassment charges and all that. The whole court battle is going on right now. Like there's updates there's an update today actually on that. Not really paying too much attention to that, but Noah Kim, he's all right. Michigan State's quarterback, but I've got Michigan winning this one by maybe 50 plus.
Yeah. Didn't Michigan State win this game 2 years ago when it was at Michigan State?
Yeah,
snowy.
2 years ago,
yeah, give me the Wolverines. I think this game's kind of personal for Michigan because they lost this game 2 years ago in East Lansing. I just think Michigan, even though they haven't played hardly anybody, they do look like the most complete team in the country right now. They've beaten who they're supposed to beat. They've taken care of them, each opponent, pretty decisively. No, I mean they've started slow in some games, but they eventually got rolling and in the second half of those games and won with ease. So, and if it weren't for Washington, Michigan would probably be my number 1 vote for number 1 team in the nation. So give me Michigan big.
No. Look, this is going to be a father and son in the driveway type of game. I mean, it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be ugly quick. Michigan habit of letting teams score on you early in the game, just it feels like, and then they go rolling and drop a 50 on you. I mean, you look at this Michigan team. The one thing that screams out to me is just depth. The amount of depth that guys has is insane. You go back to what PJ Fleck said after they played Minnesota. This is the best Michigan team yet. So I think Michigan is only Coach Harbaugh team does. I They're going to get better each week. JJ's starting to get more and more comfortable. I think this game's just sitting 20. I've been rolling with Michigan the last couple of weeks. This is when the good ones really start to separate themselves. Give me Michigan and give me Michigan big. I agree with you both.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Next matchup. This is the last matchup where both teams are not in the top 25. We've got Washington State headed to number 9 Oregon. Obviously, Oregon had that brutal loss last week too, after potentially forcing overtime against Washington in Washington, but then missed that field goal. Sucks for Bo Nix. I mean, right now, I think Oregon's too hot. I don't care. Right now, I just think, like me and Brian talked about this earlier in the show, like Oregon's in a situation right now where they need to win out if they want to even get a chance in the playoff. It's sniffing at it. And I don't know if that's possible, them getting in the playoff or not, but I think right now they're pissed off coming off that loss last week. They have the number 1 total offense in the country, looking at it from that statistical type standpoint. Obviously, between Bo Nix, Bucky Irving at running back, same with Troy Franklin at wide receiver, they have a lot of depth offensively and, I mean, even defensively too. And Washington State's coming off back-to-back losses to Arizona and at UCLA. Cam Ward's great. I think Bo Nix is a step ahead of Cam Ward, though, and I think this Oregon team, I don't know. I think it's going to be really close in Oregon. I think Oregon probably wins by a score, but I think Oregon comes out on top.
We got a pretty good quarterback battle this week. Cam Ward versus Bo Nix. Of course, Bo Nix has been the better player. He's only turned the football over once, and it was against Washington. No, I don't. I think he had a pick in that game. I can't remember. He turned over the football once, and he's taking care of the football. He's playing at an elite level. Something, Bo Nix, Auburn fans are probably kicking themselves for letting him go. But no, I like Oregon as a team still over Washington State. Their defense is still pretty good. I don't think there's a defense in the country stopping that Washington offense right now. Give me the Ducks at home, probably by a couple scores in a revenge game.
No, I agree. Game's more about who Washington State is and then who Oregon is. I know who Oregon is. I mean, they're a balanced football team, great roster. Dan Lanning in certain situations in that game. And to be honest with you, if that game's a neutral field, I'm rolling with Oregon probably again in that game. Washington State has been in the last couple of weeks. I mean, we point out Cam Ward, obviously a great player, but their defense has been a letdown. Kelly's an NFL receiver, in my opinion. They got a couple of them, but you don't know who's going to show up, week in and week out. But I know who's going to show up when it comes to Oregon and Dan Lanning coach run the ball. We're going to play good run tackle in space, and we're going to let Bo Nix in his 16th college football just be Bo Nix, and we're going to be an opposite than what Washington State has. So in this game, I'm thinking there's line 18.5. I'm playing this up to almost 20.5. I think Oregon pissed off on how that game ended against Washington State. So give me the quack, quack, mighty D formation with the cup.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no, I definitely think we all agree. Yeah, Oregon's definitely
quack for me too.
But next game on this list is a little interesting first ranked matchup of our 7 games. We have number 16 Duke headed to number 4 Florida State. Obviously, Duke's 5-1. They bounced back last week. They beat NC State after losing to Notre Dame. But right now, we're in question if Riley Leonard's back or not. It's still questionable right now. As all the news reports are coming out right now, everyone's saying there's a chance that Riley Leonard will be back. I honestly don't think he will be. I don't think they want to force it, especially against Florida State. I'm like, yeah, you want to beat Florida State, but I feel like obviously they wouldn't be rushing it if they were playing him, but I don't think he's going to play. Henry Beelan last week, their backup, went 4 for 12 for like 107 yards or something like that against NC State. They still won, but I mean, it was brutal. Obviously, Florida State's amazing. It's kind of like a David and Goliath type battle for Duke, I feel like, without Riley Leonard. But I got Duke pulling it off in Tallahassee with the upset. And
without Riley Leonard?
Without Riley Leonard. I'm telling you right now, they're going in there. That's my upset pick today.
That's a tough one. Florida State's been on a roll. This is their first true test since Clemson and since LSU. If whether or not Riley Leonard plays doesn't affect Duke's defense, and Duke's defense has been pretty good throughout the entire season. Mike Elko's came over from Texas A&M. I'm sure A&M fans still wish they would have kept him. Has done a phenomenal job at Duke. I think this is a close game early. I think maybe through 2.5 quarters, I think Duke their defense probably keeps them in the game. But I trust Jordan Travis a lot more than whoever Duke's backup is. If Riley Leonard is out, I like Keon Coleman. That dude, he's probably the leading receiver for the Biletnikoff Award right now. He's an alien. They got all kind of pieces on offense. Jaheim Bell, all kind, and Johnny Wilson. You can't forget about him. Of course, they can pound it on the ground. So I like the Seminoles at home. So
Look, the thing about it is, even if Riley plays, right, if Riley does come back, can he still be Riley Leonard? I mean, you go look on that offense, Riley, he has to be able to run the football. Who Riley is. He gets outside the pocket. He can hurt legs. Next, you know, DB's eyes start coming in the backfield and they start hitting shots. But I will give this Duke defense credit, even with the backup quarterback. They're killing NC State. That's how good this defense is. And I think they'll hold early. But I think it's just waves and waves of athleticism when it comes to Florida State. You name most of the guys. I mean, Keon Coleman, one of the best in the nation. I mean, I think it's him, a kid from LSU, Malik Neighbors, and probably Marcus Harrison Jr., who's in the conversation. And I just think Johnny Wilson getting your tree back, I am Groot. He's a 7-foot receiver run. And the one thing I do worry about with this Florida State, back to that Virginia Tech game, Virginia Tech had a good success on the ground. If Riley's back and he can beat Riley, they might have a chance. But I think this is the year for Florida State where they really make a deep into the season and maybe even a playoff run, because I think they do have the talent and the depth. And Mike Norvell is a somewhat schematic wizard when it comes to offensive play calls. Yeah. So give me State and the Seminoles in this game, baby.
All right. I mean, I guess I'm the only – I know it's kind of crazy picking Duke, but I mean, I kind of have to. That's my upset.
Got to have an upset in there somewhere.
But looking at our next matchup, obviously interesting game here. We got number 14 Utah headed to SoCal playing at number 18 USC. USC is coming off that brutal beatdown in South Bend, Indiana last week. Caleb Williams kind of got exposed by ND's defense a little bit. And Brian and I talked about it earlier in the episode. We were talking about this game, and I think one of the key pieces is Cam Rising going to play or not? Because we still don't know that, and we've been asking that question for the last 4 weeks. Because he suited up for UCLA like 3 weeks ago, ended up not playing, and now there's all those rumors about Cam Rising getting a medical red shirt this year, which is just kind of bizarre, going into a 7th year potentially. But, I mean, this was last year Utah beat USC twice, and they kind of have that upper hand. But I think right now Utah's defense is really good. Obviously, USC has a top 10 offense per usual, and then a completely irrelevant defense. But I don't think that Utah has the firepower that they need offensively to be able to beat and compete with USC's offense. So I think USC is taking this one.
I don't know. Of course, this is one of those games where Utah's defense can definitely keep them in the game. That's how they beat USC last year twice. Of course, they had Cam Rising. Then they were able to get some things going on offense. They scored like 40 points on USC defense each game that they played last year. I don't know. This has been a toss-up game for me because I think with it being in Southern Cal, I think Trojans probably pull it off here. But I'm picking the Utes. I've been high on the Utes all season. I like Kyle Whittingham. I like their defense. I like the physicality that they play with. And this is another bad matchup for USC where they don't match up well with physical teams like we saw with Notre Dame last week. And they're back end of their schedule is full loaded with physical teams, and this is one of those spots where if USC doesn't get something going defensively, they could look with 3 or 4 losses. So I got the Utes beating the Trojans on the road.
Man, I really don't think that's a bad pick. Like ever since I found out he paints his nails, I kind of want him to lose every game, to be honest. But if you look at this team in Utah, like, I still believe in their offense. And I know USC's defense is USC. I fell for the hype before the season started. Oh, we got Bear Alexander, this guy, we got that guy. And then I remember who's coaching the defense, and it's Alex, and who just steals a paycheck every week. So it must be nice. I do think USC bounces back in this game. I don't think the Utah is going to be able to move the ball. Like, look, you can shine the light in the sky for the dark right Cameron. He's not showing up. All right, Camo's not showing up in this game. That's how they beat USC last year. And you got to remember, if you go back to that USC game, I mean, USC with that defense last year still dropped 40 on them. So USC knows how to score against Utah. So I like USC in this game. I think it's close. And a big tell in this game will be time of possession. If Utah can win time of possession, almost double USC, and I think this is going to be a late game into the fourth quarter. If not, I like USC. I think Caleb Lynn's going to have a good day. So give me the Trojans in this one.
Yeah, I think I can't agree with you more on that. I know Brian's disagreeing a little bit, and I mean I want Utah to win, but it is what it is. But next game we got the number 17 Tennessee Bulls headed. Oh, what was that?
What?
Oh, so I think it's going to be a close one, to be honest. I guess the delay on here is a couple seconds.
Yeah,
it's all good.
It is a couple seconds. That's my fault.
We can edit that out. It don't matter.
But we got the number 17 Tennessee Bulls headed to Tuscaloosa in Bryant-Denny playing Bama, number 11 ranked Bama. Obviously, both of these teams going into this matchup, both teams have one loss. Obviously, Bama, brutal week 2 loss to Texas. Brian's hoping that they can still win out and sneak into that extra little playoff spot. We'll see if that'll happen or not. But I mean, this game right here, obviously, Tennessee won last year, got that game-winning field goal. Brian's still butthurt about it. I mean, I would be too if I were.
It's personal.
It is personal, and I think that's what it comes down to here. I think Bama's really trying to lay it down. Obviously, you got Joe Milton facing off. I mean, I don't know. This game's just going to be interesting between both teams because I feel like Milrose's still developing as a passer. Both of these, I don't know. I really think it's going to come down to the wire, and I think it's going to be low scoring, but I think Bama just takes this game. It's personal. A little bit of a rivalry, especially after last year, and the way that Tennessee held themselves after that game, thinking that they were like best team in college football, all this, all that. And we saw how that ended up turning out for them. But yeah, I got Bama at home.
To me, the matchup for me is the quarterback battle. Like, because Dale Milroe and Joe Milton kind of play in similar styles where they like to get out of the pocket. They like to run. They like to hit the deep. They have both have strong arms. Joe Milton has a rocket. I mean, it's ridiculous how far he can throw the ball. But so does Jalen Milroe. They like to hit the deep ball. Whichever quarterback can hit the plays, and I think y'all talked about this on y'all's Tennessee Bama preview and y'all show, where whichever quarterback can hit the intermediate to short game, whoever can make the plays in the passing game the most, I think will win this game. And right now, just from what I've seen for both quarterbacks, I trust Jalen Milroe a little bit more, especially with that defense behind him. Tennessee was able to run the ball against A&M, but they only scored 13 offensive points. And that was kind of concerning for me, as you have all those rushing yards, but you only scored 13 points. So for me, I trust Bama's defense a little bit more, and I trust Jalen Milroe a little bit more in the pocket. So give me Alabama. I was going to do reverse psychology this week, but I'm like, nah, I think Bama's got this one in the bag.
Oh, man, it's a tough game to pick. The more I look at it, the tougher it gets. Both these guys, and we say this on the show a lot, huge arms. I mean, look, they're long-distance guys. They'll go out there and carry it 300. They can probably hit a 3-wood, probably always go down to even a 4-iron. But if you wanted to make a 5-foot putt, neither of them going to close. I think they're still growing. The thing about the key in this game, in my opinion, is Tennessee is one of the best running teams in the SEC, if not the best. They got 3 backs, steady backs. And was coming along defensively in the front 7. They're obviously starting to look like an Alabama football team. This game isn't Bryant-Denny. Which Alabama team is going to show up? Is it going to be the first half team against Arkansas? Is it going to be the second half team against Arkansas? I think it's going to be the first team. I think it's going to be close. I do like the under not a lot of scoring in this game because both these quarterbacks aren't great in the intermediate game. I think Jalen Milroe needs to start using his feet more. I think he's a hell of a lot better runner than what Tennessee has. So give me Alabama. I think this game's sitting at 9.5. I don't believe in Joe Milton. I'll never believe in Joe Milton. I don't know why every year starts and people give him crazy expectations. Same guy every game. So give me the Bama, Nick Saban. I think watch for Bama sneaking up on a lot of people, especially maybe even playoff talk.
Well, the game that Bama has circled after this one is that one Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks against LSU. That's the one that really frightens me as a Bama fan. So,
oh well, okay. Hey, you never know now. Hey, y'all coming to Jordan Hare this year now? Look, weird things happen.
I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying right now the only game that really, really terrifies me is LSU because if they win, they go to Atlanta. If we win, we go to Atlanta, despite whether we lose in Auburn or not. I mean,
and I face a Georgia Brock Bowers. then it gets interesting. Then if they do win, the 2 lost SEC team make the college football playoff. I'm sure that's a conversation for another day. But we could run down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, the last game of the day, save the best for last. Brian's a little upset about it. Obviously, we got number 7 Penn State headed to Columbus, Ohio, playing number 3 Ohio State. Brian's still a little salty because of a bet he lost. He's wearing one of my Ohio State hats right now. But this is a big game. This is a big game for both teams. Obviously, for Ohio State, it's a big game. Big test for Kyle McCord to see if he can make that jump. Because I mean, last week he had a great week. He developed each and every single week. But either or, Kyle McCord needs to show up this week. And then you look at Penn State. This is Penn State's game. This is the game where Penn State also needs to show up.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier in the episode about James Franklin. In games like this, he doesn't perform the best. He usually always seems to choke. But, I mean, you got to look at it. Penn State has the number 1 defense in college football right now. In 6 games, they have 27 sacks. Their defense is absolutely I don't know. As an Ohio State fan, I'm afraid of their defense. And the only other issue is last week, Ohio State's number 1 and number 2 running backs, Travion Henderson and Maya Williams, were both out. The number 3 running back, Chip Trayanum, got hurt in the game. And Ryan Day is not giving any statement on if those 3 will play. He's not giving a statement on Emeka Egbuka, the number 2 receiver, will be back. So there's lots of – and both these teams have phenomenal pass defenses. But obviously, I think my pick is known as an Ohio State fan. I'm not going to pick against Ohio State. But as an Ohio State fan, I must say that I am nervous as crap and don't really know how to feel because, especially with Penn State's offense, they have Drew Aller. Drew Aller's never played Ohio State yet. They also have arguably probably the best running back duo in the Big Ten. And it'll be scary. Both of these teams also average over 400 yards offensively. And, yeah, but obviously I got to pick Ohio State, but it is going to be close like every year with Penn State.
I think this is a bigger game for James Franklin than it is Ryan Day. Obviously, Ryan Day hasn't been able to win the last couple of years is Michigan. I said it earlier. If James Franklin is going to break through as the Penn State head coach and beat Ohio State, beat Michigan, make it to the Big Ten championship, and potentially make the playoff, it's this year with this team, with this quarterback and Drew Aller, this defense that they have, number 1 defense in college football, like you said. It's now or never for Penn State. And if they don't win this game, now you start questioning James Franklin a little bit more. I don't know, but it's now or never for Penn State, and that's why I'm picking the Nittany Lions to go into the shoe and upset Ohio State on the road. I like this Penn State team. I like Drew Aller, and I love this defense. So give me the Nittany Lions.
Okay. Now, the thing about it is Penn State hadn't played anybody. I think the best team they played is Iowa. And, I mean, look, you can basically – I don't know if Iowa can score 20 points on air on offense. Especially on the defense. I mean, you got Chop Robinson. You have a great trio of cornerbacks. I mean, question Penn State's defense. But I look at that offense, and it's just – they got the Lambert kid nice. But, I mean, Jahad Dotson's ain't out there. Don't really have the impact guys. That's why you look. They've had really big plays on the season. I look at this Ohio State team, and it's a lot of big ifs as the injuries. And Buka needs to be out there. I mean, if he's not playing, that's going to change up the just defense philosophy of way Penn State's going to play. Because look, if I'm Penn State, I'm obviously doubling Marvin Harrison, I'm the best receiver in college football. But guys who I look at matchups like this are the hardest guys to guard. Tight ends. All right. And I really like Stover State. I really do. I mean, just bad matchups for safeties, a bigger body, and linebackers can't keep up with them. And I think Kyle's coming along nicely. I mean, you go back to that Purdue game last week. That's the one complete game. And they played 2 good halves of football. I mean, you go back to the Maryland game. They didn't show up in the first half. I think the public's with Penn State on this, but I don't put Drew Aller as these other peoples do. Like, I think he makes mistakes in this game. I don't think he's like the speed like this on defense. I think they're going to get to him a little bit. I think Penn State will get to Cal, but have gotten to already by Notre Dame if you go watch that. So give me Ohio State. I'm sitting at 4.5. I like Ohio State to cover. I think Drew Aller could throw picks. I think Ohio State clears in this game.
Yeah, as an Ohio State fan, that makes me really happy to hear. They're good bits of reassurance there. I mean, going back to what you said about Drew Aller, too, it's like this Ohio State defense already played at Talia Tagovailoa, who's probably, I would say, better than Drew Aller. So, I mean, I don't know. But
yeah, that's going to be a tough game. But, I mean, this game could go either way. College game day is going to be there. Yeah, it's a good conversation. But, yeah, man, I think that's going to do it for our Week 8 Pick'em segment. We can't thank Blain enough for coming on the show and being a part of this. Also, Blain, if you didn't already know, we are doing a little contest for our guest pickers. Whoever has the best record at the end of the season will win like a gift card or something. We haven't determined the prize yet, but right now his girlfriend is leading at 6-1, so that's you either got a tie or a beat for right now.
Well done, sir. Well done. I see where you get knowledge from.
heck yeah. What was that?
I said, well, your girlfriend's leading. Pick 'em.
Yeah, she's leading. I don't know how when she came on here, literally, we talk about it all the time with all of our guests because she came on, I think, week 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, she got 6 out of 7 correct. And all she was doing, she was like, oh, I'm going to pick Tennessee because Morgan Wallen's a Tennessee fan.
And that was her one blemish, and she picked Tennessee over Florida because of Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, we can't thank you enough for coming on. And this episode will release on Flaming Dragon Friday in honor of the Flaming Dragon. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe button. And we were talking about it before we started the episode. Maybe if the Crain and Company comes back down for the Senior Bowl, maybe we can do a collab, an episode with them in person. We would love to do that. So this has been episode 29.
But heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you again to Blain.